In terms of the wide receiver room, I see the plan. They had an idea for a transition year of Travis Kelce's no longer the number one guy. Rashee Rice is going to be the number one guy. We're going to bring in Hollywood Brown, who's a good fit. We're going to draft Xavier Worthy. And the idea is to have a faster offense. And honestly, because so many snaps ended up going to Juju Smith-Schuster because of the injury stuff, because so many snaps went to Justin Watson, who has downfield speed but is a slow burn, kind of similar to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, their offense looked painfully slow. DeAndre Hopkins, we're all grateful. He added quite the spark mid-season, and I think by the end of the year, I think injuries were starting to slow him down. I think they were nagging at him a little bit. The offense looked painfully slow by the end. They obviously don't want that again. I think it looks like they're essentially trying to run back that plan. Say, hey, we had an idea, and then Brown got hurt right away, and then Rice got hurt basically right away, and then the left tackle position completely blew up, and then they were just triaging the rest of the year and managed to get by with an okay offense, a little above average, but still not what they want. I think the Chiefs understand they can't have that happen 3 years in a row. You can't have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and Andy Reid as your head coach and have an average to above average offense 3 years in a row. Eventually, excuses run out. And so I'm less than enthused that they're running back the same plan because the health concerns, because of the suspension concerns. And then also to a lesser extent for me, the way that they utilized Hollywood Brown, like in the playoffs, it wasn't as dynamic attacking the intermediate portion of the field as I was hoping. On paper, you have an offense that you can attack all three levels of the field with Worthy, Brown, and Rice. But they need to show that they can actually layer the offense together like that. So if they brought back, to quote my colleague at KCSN, Maddie Lane, if they brought back Hollywood Brown to kind of do the same stuff they had him doing in the playoffs, I don't know as much about that. If they brought him back to be what the role he was in Arizona and what it looked like they were going to have him do during the regular season, then I'm all for it. I would still draft a receiver in the first 3 rounds. But I'm team draft a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds every year. Every single year, draft a guy, maybe even in the first 2 rounds, depending on what else your needs are. And because they did such a good job addressing glaring needs, I think they've got the option to do that.
They certainly seem to be going into the draft with the ability to go best player available in every single round. There's nothing dire that I see that they have to reach unnecessarily for. Not that they have 8 picks. I don't know that they'll use all 8, but I still think you've got 4 at least in the top 100. So you've got the ability to really get some playmakers, which is obviously the hope. I kind of agree with you. I do wonder how the offense will look like actually seeing Hollywood, Rice, and Worthy together. Because even with Hollywood back, he was still trying to get things just back up to speed, but then you had no Rice. So that's what I'm really intrigued to see about, is just if their health holds up, obviously, yes, that's important. But then just seeing all them together with Worthy also going into year 2.
That's one area where I do think a lot of good questions do exist for Andy Reid with year 2 of Xavier Worthy, because they kind of tried to use him in that wide receiver 1 role when Rice got hurt and he just wasn't ready for it. And so then they kind of went back to the original plan and slowly expanded what he did in the offense. And then it wasn't until the second half of the Super Bowl where you're just probably could have been running some of these downfield routes sooner, right? And in case people wrongly think this, it's not that last touchdown was against backups. Everything else before that was not. He was running away from Cooper DeJean across the middle of the field. Xavier Worthy can play. He wasn't necessarily ready for that bigger role, but now he really should be. And with Rice and with Brown, you want to see a more dynamic offense. And that's something, you'd maybe see 1 shot down the field a game down the stretch last year. And again, part of that, they had the absolute fiasco at left tackle. Okay. And it impacted everything they did the rest of the year.